Hello, I'm Professor Ross Dowling from Edith Cowan University in Western Australia, and it's my privilege and honour to be presenting to you today at the ATEC 22 conference on Algeria's tourism economy. My talk is about suggestions for developing geotourism and geoparks in Algeria. By way of background, my wife and I work all over the world on international tourism development. Some examples here include planning and development in Australia, training and education in Spain, capacity building in China, work in Iceland, carrying out a tourism plan for the Sultanate of Oman, and running a Geoparks and Geotourism conference for the President of Uzbekistan in 2019. By way of background here, the World Tourism Organization at the end of last year said tourism is growing by 4%. That's still down 72% on pre-pandemic levels, but at least we're now moving up again. Africa had a 12% increase in arrivals, and the outlook is that we won't return to world tourism levels that were in 2019 again until 2024. If we look at Algeria in 2010, this paper by Dr. Kamel Bourdam in a book on applied socio-economic research showed a national strategy for tourism development in Algeria, pointing out some of the issues, opportunities, and limitations. If we have a look at what Trading Economics says about international tourist arrivals in Algeria from 2012 to 2019, you will see that they're moving up and down. And if we have a look at some of the figures from the National Tourism Office, we'll see that Algeria is the fourth largest tourism destination in Africa, contributing 6 billion dinar, or 3.6% of the GDP, which is about half what Tunisia and Morocco get, so a little way to go. But in 2017, the Oxford Business Group said there was a positive outlook for Algeria's tourism sector. And so they said that there will be, a contribution of 10% by tourism. That's Algeria's goal, and to increase it fourfold by 2030. This will be done by increasing public investment and also the large domestic investment by the government. In 2020, the United Nations annual report on Algeria said that there was a lot to do, but things were going well with Algeria. And in sustainable tourism, which the UN is particularly interested in, they said this document supported the Algerian government in its policy of promoting sustainable, environmentally friendly tourism that values the Algerian cultural heritage. And that's what I will be talking about today in my talk. If we examine the connection among national tourism expenditure and economic growth, it's saying that the authorities have the power to mobilise sustained investment in Algerian tourism. So that's what I am encouraging the government to do. Some of the future considerations for tourism development in Algeria: 1, access, accommodation and security. They're important elements to develop. 2, capitalise on its natural and cultural assets, which we've already said. 3, build on the core market of passive resort and spa-based tourism on the coast. And 4, add a range of natural and cultural attractions and activities in the inland Sahara region. I know that your national languages are Arabic and French, so I look for English as a person whose native language is English, and there are lots of books and apps in English, so that's good. And here are lots of English language guidebooks. So there is lots there for tourism attractions in the English language around the world. I just first want to talk about 3 quick trends in tourism. 1, Instagrammability. 2, discerning tourists. And 3, a quality focus. All are important for developing tourism in Algeria. There's a Facebook site, Welcome to Algeria. Very important that we have these, things on the net in the virtual world, social media. It's saying 2.4 thousand people like this. But if you have a look at the Instagram posts for Algeria, you've got 952 people following, you've got 510,000 followers and 4,000 posts. Have a look for Australia, have a look, instead of 510,000 followers, 5.2 million followers. So that just gives a point of comparison. And if we have a look at a little boat shed sitting on a river in the city of Perth, the most remote city in the world, here a humble Perth boathouse has become Australia's most unlikely tourist attraction. Why? Because it is an Asian selfie spot. The Asians traveling the world love to capture themselves, and they create attractions like this little shed on a river. A second key point and trend in tourism is that tourists are becoming more discerning. So they are seeking more informed information about the places they're visiting. Here is a picture I took in the Antarctic 20 years ago when I was leading a tour down there. And the tourists that I were taking were extremely well informed about the Antarctic then. And they're even more informed before they go to destinations today. So a point for the future of Algerian tourism is to provide good content about the country, its attractions, its access, its security, because the key people traveling the world today, those high yield tourists, are very discerning or very informed. The third thing is the quality focus. It's very important that in developing tourism in Algeria, that the growth and future development of a sustainable tourism industry will be predicated on the development of quality tourism services and products. Here's a guide from New Zealand, bottom of the world, and who is an excellent guide. And when she learned that the gentleman on the right of the photo with the white hair was blind, she then took her whole tour of about 20 people as if we were all blind. It's that adaptation that's so important in the world today. Here is a recent paper here from 2021 looking at quality management in Algeria, and I'd urge you to look it up and see what they say about the need for quality in tourist facilities in Algerian tourism development. Quality assurance is critical. Here in Australia, look at the amount of quality assurance programs we have. So something like this, if it's not developed in Algeria, should be. Some of the emerging or growth sectors in the world would be village tourism, festivals and events, cruise ship tourism, dark sky tourism, geotourism and geoparks. Let's briefly look at them, and then we'll spend the rest of the presentation looking at point 5, geotourism and geoparks. But first one, village tourism. Algeria is good at that, and this is what the tourists of today are seeking. It must be locally beneficial, experiential. People want to do things, interactive with the local people, meaningful, not just put on for the tourists, but it's got to be authentic and unique to Algeria, something you won't find in other countries. So you're good at that, continue with it, expand and grow it. Festivals and events. I've looked on your websites and seen you're good at that. Here's a little Rainforest World Music Festival in Sarawak, Borneo, Malaysia, a very remote island. and yet it attracts a worldwide following each year. And so Algeria needs to set up its own unique festivals and events and grow a following of international tourists. Cruise tourism's big business. It's an area I work in around the world. 2 global books I've written on the subject, both with contributions from people all over the world. And you have cruising already in Algeria. That's fantastic. A recent post from a couple of years ago saying a cruise ship carrying 641 tourists docked in Iran. And I know that you have numbers of cruise ships visiting Oman, visiting Iran and other ports in Algeria. And if we look at 2022 this year, we've already got Silver Sea visiting at Silver Cloud, the ship visiting there. It's going to one of the ports in Algeria, and is also the Artania and the Armadea that'll be visiting in March on the left and in October on the right. I encourage you to grow that because many people visiting by cruise ships are searching for places to come back to and spend more time in. Dark sky tourism's great. In the Sahara and elsewhere in Algeria, you have lots of dark sky. This is on the rise globally. People are seeking areas away from night lights in order to see the stars. So astronomy and astrotourism is growing, and countries are now creating dark sky areas. So something for Algeria to think about. But today I want to talk about geotourism and geoparks. This is an area that I have been working in around the world for 20 years or more. Geotourism is an emerging form of holistic tourism, which is being sought after by the world's travelers. I'll also talk about geoparks. A geopark is a powerful new vehicle for sustainable regional development. So here's my contribution so far to geotourism and geoparks. A number of conferences and books here. One of them translated into Arabic, my 2006 book. This book here, the Handbook of Geotourism, bottom left, has 36 chapters, including 10 on geoparks. It's got 55 contributors from 5 continents. So it's a very, very useful book. And right now I'm working on a book, Geotourism in the Middle East, co-edited with Professor Mamoon Allen from the University of Jordan. Geotourism, if we talk about the environment has 3 major components. In English, we use A, B, C, the first 3 letters of the alphabet to talk about geotourism. A is abiotic or non-living parts of the environment, which is landforms and climate. They shape the biotic or living parts of the environment, the animals and plants. Altogether, landforms, climate, animals and plants have shaped the cultural elements of the environment. That is, the people who have lived there in the past, the indigenous people, and today, the present. All these are important because they've shaped tourism over here. Different types of abiotic tourism is geological tourism, weather tourism, outback tourism, astrotourism. Biotic tourism is nature-based, ecotourism, wildflower, wildlife. And cultural tourism is cultural tourism generally, or indigenous and heritage tourism. All of these make up geotourism. So it's a more holistic approach to tourism, and it comprises all 3 ABC elements of the environment. So here in Western Australia, in a very remote area, like in the Sahara, in Algeria, we've developed geotourism here, and now we're converting it into a geopark. So the Murchison georegion of Western Australia, we have a trail guide book. We have an app to guide people through the region. It is very remote. It is similar to many parts you will have in Algeria. And out there we have the world's largest herd of feral camels. I bet people in Algeria didn't know that. So we have out there features that we are promoting through geotourism that are abiotic, like London Bridge, a natural sandstone bridge. Orbicular granite, a very, very interesting piece of rock which is found out there. The biotic, the plants, the wildflowers, and the animals, the emus here and the bongara over here. And of course, we are promoting the cultural or indigenous sites like this one here, a rock sacred to the Aboriginal people of Western Australia. And here is a church sacred to the European people of Western Australia. So all of those attractions make up geotourism. If we go to Namibia, right at the bottom of Southern Africa, here it is here, my wife and I working very remotely in the Namib Desert. You can see it's very, very remote. Lots of animals out there around the edges where the rock pools are, and nothing much else. A few trees, and animals always around the pools. Sand dunes, like this one, the world's highest mobile sand dune at Susuvlei. But I want to show this, the Fish River Canyon, the world's second largest canyon after Duck Grand Canyon. And here, a hotel chain, the Gondwana Collection, which has about 19 hotels throughout Namibia. It has the Cannon Roadhouse right by Fish River Canyon. And they have a very good interpretation of the arid environment, the canyon, through ABC interpretation. So that they talk about the geological evolution of Fish River Canyon. They talk about the plants and the animals, and they talk about the history of the indigenous people and the people today. See, their interpretation is holistic, suiting the discerning tourist of today who wants to know more than just the geology of a geological site, more than just the culture of a cultural site, more than about just the animals in front of them in a biotic site. So this ABC interpretation is very important. In the USA, the National Geographic has created the National Teton Geotourism Center in the Grand Teton National Park. This whole center reflects geotourism, the ABC interpretation. And if we're also in America at the Devil's Tower in Wyoming, this very, very unique piece of rock here, the volcanic throat of a former volcano, the interpretations about the geology, the wildlife, and the people in their visitor center. If we have a look at some suggested geotourism areas for development in Algeria, I'll take you to all these sites now and just show you what some Algerian academics think about developing geotourism. So here in the Kala at Bani Hamad in Mstila, these academics here from the Department of Geography and Territorial Planning in Algeria at the Hurai Bourmindine Sciences and Technology University, they're saying that we could use geotourism to preserve some of the world archaeological sites in the Bani Hamad area. If we go to the Batna region here, these academics here from the same university are saying maybe we could rehabilitate some of the areas for through tourism development. And they give examples of how this could be done. While they're talking about the development of eco-lodges and ecotourism, I would talk about the more holistic approach of developing geotourism, which is far more than the ecological plants and animals aspect, but includes the landforms, the rocks, the mountains. It includes the cultural assets of the area and the people today. The Orania region here in Western Algeria. Here, some academics here at the University Karali Mabish are saying that they think that this here, these sites here, this remarkable geosites, could be protected by geotourism. In the Kabylia area, we've got here maybe the revitalization of mountain rural tourism as a tool for sustainable local development. And I would say again, rather than mountain rural tourism, which tourists don't understand, I would be talking about geotourism development in this region, which promotes village tourism, which promotes tourism anywhere, including the mountains. If we have a look at the El Bayard region here, these authors in a book From Geoheritage to Geoparks are talking about the dinosaur tracks there and saying it's a significant national geological heritage that's in danger. Well, if this was made into a geotourism site or geopark, they would be protected. So if we have a look here in South Korea, you will see there in South Korea that there a statue of a dinosaur. And here the actual footprints going across the landscape. How is that protected? Through an exhibition center that the South Koreans have built, attracting tens or hundreds of thousands of visitors a year, people that will now can look at the dinosaur tracks in a controlled way and yet understand them and see them. If we now move to the final part of my presentation on geoparks, a geopark is a UNESCO vehicle for sustainable regional economic development, which is underpinned by geological and landscape attractions. They foster conservation, community well-being, and economic development. They're a program of Unesco, top left, and they're supported by a global geoparks network, just people from around the world who love geoparks in this global community, not-for-profit NGO. Geoparks are powerful new drivers of sustainable regional development. They celebrate Earth heritage and they sustain local communities. If you look at the UNESCO Global Geoparks website, you can pick up this brochure which talks about all the things that creating a geopark will do for an area. I've put them down more simply on this slide, saying UNESCO has a lot of goals here, and Global Geoparks actually addresses all those goals here. And the 4 pillars of geoparks are about geology, management, visibility, and network. And they're also, it should be noted, reevaluated every 4 years, unlike World Heritage areas. The main reason governments and regions want to establish geoparks is the economic benefits. A big paper here about the economic benefits of the Irish geoscience sector. It's a big full report you can access. In Vietnam, they talk about geoparks providing jobs for locals. In China, they talk about mining the invisible gold. And a recent paper talking about the economic impact of UNESCO Global Geoparks on local communities, a case study of 3 geoparks in Asia. Now, there's 3 levels of geoparks: aspiring, national, global. I've been talking about the global, but there's hundreds of aspiring areas that want to become geoparks. They start there. Then they become a national level geopark, and then you can apply for global geopark status. So UNESCO has 3 world programs: World Heritage, 1,154 sites in 167 countries; Biosphere Reserves, 720 sites in 131 countries; and now UNESCO Global Geoparks, 169 at the global level in 44 countries. In Algeria, 7 World Heritage sites, but no Biosphere Reserves and no Global Geoparks that I could find. Here's the website here for UNESCO Global Geoparks. If you'd like to know more about them, it's right there. The English version, but of course UNESCO also has the French version, which I'm sure the Algerians would prefer to use. Here are these red dots showing you those 169 geoparks in the world, and not too many in Africa, but just a couple, one in Tanzania and one in Morocco. But the most geoparks in the world are in Europe, 82. So the Europeans who come down to Algeria, they understand geoparks. And China. China has 41 global level geoparks, but hundreds, if not thousands, of aspiring and national geoparks. Just have a look in Europe alone. And of course, there's lots of Europeans travel to Algeria. You can see here on the map. Look at the number of geoparks. So the Europeans understand geoparks and are looking for them. If we just have a look at one, the English Riviera UNESCO Global Geopark in the UK. Have a look. When you create a geopark, you're not creating anything new. You're just using the existing attractions. Here is a museum here, a gardens there, a museum there, an abbey or church there, a court around a castle there, a farm, a tower, a geological feature there. Over here, a visitor centre for education, etc. So it's just about using the existing attractions. If we had a look at Tamanrasset province, we've got some academics saying there's some aspiring geoparks there in Hogar and Tidikelt. So this was written up in an academic paper, the Arabian Journal of Geosciences in 2020, so pretty recent. And I also want to say, look at the opportunity that you've got in the Sahara, the land of peace. I've seen it written about by some of your ambassadors in overseas countries. And I think today, with what's happening in the world, why don't you set up a world peace park in the Sahara? Wouldn't that be something unique? If you are going to look at geoparks, though, there's lots of benefits. So they're a vehicle for 1, economic growth, 2, job creation, 3, community well-being, 4, cultural revival, 5, conservation, 6, tourism development, 7, indigenous enterprise, 8, educational links, 9, scientific research, and 10, a global network. Lots of benefits from geoparks. And if you're interested, there's some grants to support the creation of geoparks in Africa and the African states, which UNESCO is offering, with the deadline being the end of next month, the 30th of April. I'd encourage you to look at that. And then every 2 years, UNESCO holds an international conference on geoparks. And the 10th conference next year is being held in Marrakesh, Morocco, at the Magoun UNESCO Global Geopark. Very close for you to get to and see what's happening. So I'd suggest that those people involved in the economic development of your country should get people there to look at it. You'll be blown away by what you see around the world. So to sum up, geotourism and geoparks, it's a huge opportunity for Algeria. There's amazing landscapes. It's a global phenomenon. It's more than just geology, and you could capitalize on the rise of geoparks. So that's my talk today to you. I thank you for the opportunity for sharing. My email address is at the bottom of the slide there. I'd love to hear more from any of you about the opportunity, and I'd love to come and visit Algeria one day, maybe to help you on the ground, help develop geotourism and geoparks as a tool for economic sustainable development in your country. Best wishes for the rest of the conference, and thank you.